Our next speaker is Diana Kelley. Diana is the Cybersecurity Field CTO for Microsoft and a cybersecurity thought leader, practitioner, executive advisor, and author. She was the Global Executive Security Advisor at IBM Security, where she built and managed the IBM Security Research Community Newsroom process and was a regular contributor to IBM X-Force Research. She's a faculty member with IANS Research, an industry mentor at the Cybersecurity Factory, and a guest lecturer at Boston College's Master of Science in Cybersecurity program. In 2016, she was an IEEE Rockstar of Risk. She speaks frequently at major conferences, and she co-authored the book, Cryptographic Libraries for Developers. Please join me in welcoming Diana Kelley. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. You know, I was really connecting to what Nicole said when she was talking about cybersecurity versus IT, because there was actually an IT security, because there was a time in my career when I swore I'm never going to use the term cyber. So I've been in IT security for almost 30 years now. And when I started out, it wasn't even just security. You know, the first company I ever worked for, we didn't have a network. I was the one that put in the network form. So the dark ages. Sometimes I say that, you know, people are like, "Did you have email?" I'm like, "Just barely." So you know, I feel like it's almost like now talking to somebody. You know, when I was younger with my grandparents, I'm like, were you really around before there were cars? How did people live? Did you breathe oxygen? You know, did you have gills or something? You know, and it's like now it's like, yeah, I do remember a time before email. But anyway, when I joined Microsoft about 7 months ago as the new role, Cybersecurity Field CTO, and I was told that was the name of the job, and I was like, well, I guess, you know, it's really time. Cybersecurity is a term that people know and understand now, so it's time to kind of adopt and embrace, I guess, the cyber way. So how many people here have ever heard of the Security Intelligence Report from Microsoft? Okay, a couple. All right, do you read it? Yeah. You heard of it? Thank you. If you haven't heard of it, it's awesome. And it's so good, it's super expensive. No, it's not. It's completely free. And what we do is we gather the information that we collect with our own research. And we have a lot of information to collect. So imagine being able to get signal on malware and other unwanted software on all Windows devices that are running our AV or advanced threat protection. Right? We get those signals. Think about the number of logins on the Azure cloud every month. It's about 450 billion. Bing sees 18, let me see if I got that right. Wait, I think I got the wrong number there. No, 18 billion web pages. So we see a lot of data and information. And we use that to help you, right? I mean, we want to keep Azure clean, we want to keep Windows clean, we want to keep your enterprises safe. So we use this data in a lot of different ways. The core way that we use it is in our machine learning models to, as automatically and quickly as possible, be able to stop an attack. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the attacks that we've seen that we stopped quickly. But also at the end of the year, or every 6 months, it's good to look back and say, are there any trends here that we can write up and share with others to help them understand what the attackers are doing? We've heard from all three speakers that knowing how people operate, knowing how the bad guys are trying to get on our systems and what they're doing, really helps us, all of us, the defenders, understand what we need to do within our organizations from the people, the process, and the technology. So technology can help us, right? We know that. That's a lot, and do some automation. But it's about our people. It's about training our people. And it's even about the policies and the programs that are put into place. So the Security Intelligence Report is our write-up. We do it twice a year of what we're seeing, the big trends that we explain back out to the market, and the hope that it's helpful for you to see what these bad guys are doing. And what we came up with in the last version of the report that just came out a few weeks ago was we saw three big topics that were continuing to emerge. Botnets. probably not shocking, right? Anybody like, oh my God, I've never heard of it. Wow, that's amazing. No, we've heard of botnets. They're still out there. But what we did was we were part of the takedown of one of the largest botnets in existence. So there's some discussion about and some learnings to come out of that botnet. But the botnets continue to be a bit of a juggernaut of an attack. And why is that? Because it's useful. It's a useful tool to the attacker. Do you think the attackers want like the coolest, latest? We always talk about they're getting so sophisticated and everything is changing. Do you think that they want the coolest, latest exploit? Is that what the attacker wants? I want to use the coolest exploit. Yeah, I agree with you. Nah. What do they want?
One that works.
The one that works. Exactly. That's what they want. So we noticed actually as some of the attack trends moved away from older kinds of attacks, we saw this weird resurgence of the older attacks and a resurgence and targets on easy marks. So guess what went up again? Social engineering. And what does this tell us? This tells us that we really do need to continue to be multifaceted, multi-layered in our security approaches because, we're the ones that have to fill all the holes. The attacker has to just find the one way, and it's like a house. Anybody ever have ants get into your house? And it's really frustrating. You feel like maybe you'll stop them in one area and they come in, because think of how small an ant is versus how big your house is, right? They just have to find this one tiny little crack to get in. And this is like what it is to be a defender. They're trying to get in any particular area. But this rise of easy mark attack methods was just a really good reminder to us that, and hopefully to the industry, that when we don't block all of the possible ways in, then that's where they're going to get in. They're going to get into the one that you missed. And then the last one was ransomware. So ransomware, it continues. Why do bank robbers rob banks? Because that's where the money is. What's been a really good way that attackers have gotten money lately? Ransomware. Yeah. So continuing to grow, a little bit of hope there, though, at the end about being able to stop and learn about ransomware. So those are the three core things that I'm going to talk about. I have a link at the end for you where you can get this report. And we also, of some of the deeper dives into how the botnets work and things, we also put those up on our MS Secure blog. So if you want to, again, it's all free. You can go and read our research. And the other thing to note about with the botnets and where we get information and what we do, has anybody heard of the Digital Crimes Unit? Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so Microsoft actually has a Digital Crimes Unit. And truly goes in, and when you hear crimes, you think of enforcement and action, and this group will in fact take action. And one of the biggest actions that this group did recently was to help take down one of the largest botnets that was in existence. This team also uses techniques like photo DNA, which we also have in use by other organizations, and our photo DNA is incredibly good at identifying if an image contains illegal information in it. So, stuff that illegal information, and then being able to help track down who had that information to help law enforcement with things that can help stop child trafficking and human trafficking. So botnets. Botnets are basically computer networks that are made up of our own systems that have been taken over by a bad guy. How did the bad guy take it over? Somehow malware got onto that system. It could have been a drive-by download, it could have been you clicked a link, it could have been that you found this really cool looking USB in a parking lot and put it into your system to see what might be on there. But however it got in, and now you're part of this bigger botnet that the attacker is using for some kind of malicious purpose. It used to be that a lot of botnets were around phishing. Because if you wanted to send huge amounts of bad emails out, you didn't want them tied to you and your company, or you wanted to have them coming from someplace else. So using their processing power for phishing. Anybody want to take a guess at what one of the most popular things now that bots are doing when they take over a bunch of systems? DDoS? DDoS is definitely one, but yeah, DDoS. Anyone else? Coins? Did you say coins? Yeah. So crypto coin mining. Cryptocurrency takes a lot because of the proof of work involved in a blockchain, which is used in most of the cryptocurrencies. This takes pretty intensive compute power. In fact, I was just reading, I think the Chinese just raided cryptocurrency mining. I think it was operating improperly. I didn't read the whole story, I just saw the headline before I got up here, but it was based on the power that was being used by those systems, because it takes a lot of power to do crypto mining. Now the attackers are saying, well, if I can have 1 billion, or 1 million endpoints, they're starting to do crypto mining on those endpoints. But a botnet, it's any series of systems that have been infiltrated by an attacker so the attacker can use it for the attacker's purpose. And one of the largest was the Gamarue, also known as the Andromeda botnet. So Gamarue is the name of the malware. It's also the name that was given to the whole botnet. It was first seen, depending on which report you're looking at, anywhere between 2011, 2015 is, I believe, when Microsoft first reported seeing it. It grew to millions, 23 different IP addresses associated with it. And it was a modular piece of malware. So anybody here have like a WordPress website or a browser that allows plugins? So a lot of our systems now, right, when we, things like WordPress and a lot of our browsers, we get it from the original vendor, but then someone else writes this really cool thing that you can plug into that site or into that browser. You say, that's great, I want to extend the functionality, so you plug it in. So this is how it works for us in the world of not trying to be malicious. Well, attackers actually have modular malware too. Gamarue was modular, where you could get additional plugins for Gamarue. So one example was if you wanted the keystroke logger functionality, it just cost you an extra $150. If you wanted, I think it was Form Scraper was what it was called, but if you want to get the information coming off the browser that's going into the forms, that was an extra $250. So this was a really big chunky piece of malware, and it had spread to millions of systems. So it had gotten into a lot of different systems. Overall, what we saw when we were analyzing the different samples of the pieces of this sort of monster type malware, 44,000 different samples across all of Gamarue. So this was a massive amount of data. And good data, because in the sense that we can learn from this. Not good that it's good it got on anyone's systems, but good for research purposes to be able to understand what does this look like. 1,214 domains and IP addresses for the botnets for the CNC servers. Anybody know this CNC? Command and control. And what does the command and control server do? It commands and controls the malware that's on the different endpoints. So when you're a bot, that bot needs to talk to something to know what it's supposed to do and where it's supposed to check in. And that's what the CNC, or the command and control server, was. And if the CNC is where the bot needs to go to, what would be a way that you could take down a botnet? Blocking the access to that command and control server. And your organization could potentially block, this is a known bad IP address, or if it's in the cloud, you can stop the routing to those addresses altogether. Overall, there were 464 different botnets within this giant sprawling Gamarue botnet, and 80 different core malware families. We worked, as I said, with law enforcement, so that includes the FBI, and the European Computer Crimes, Cybersecurity Crimes, so IC3. Did I say that right? I want to make sure I said that right. EC3, sorry. To take this down, we also worked with some partners like ESET. Because again, this is a big action that that was taken. It wasn't just a vendor deciding to do something. It was a coordinated effort. Looking at the infected devices after the Gamarue disruption, so we had a lot of infected devices right after the disruption. The original disruption was in November of 2017. So here's what we had in December, but we still have some systems that are infected even now. Because the path to the command and control servers is no longer available, that means that you can be infected, but you're not actively being controlled by the attackers, by the Gamarue, by the bot herders. But we still see going through Azure in the cloud, we still see attempts to go to the CNC servers, which means that there are still infected systems out there. So what about recommendations? Because it's always like you hear a lot about like, well, here's all the terrible stuff, and that always frustrates me because I'm an admin. That was how I got my start as an admin. And I always want to go, okay, that's nice. Bad guys, yeah, they're doing stuff. How do I fix it? What do I do? And in this case, the recommendation is really to make sure that you've got everything up to date on your systems, make sure that they're patched as possible, but also to work with companies that are watching activity in the cloud and using some kind of machine learning to be able to detect what's going wrong with your systems faster. And I know machine learning sounds a little bit like magical, right? And it seems like anybody at RSA last week, the RSA conference? It felt, so I was there, it was crazy, really busy, but sometimes I feel walking around the show floor that it's like, that like AI and machine learning are being presented to us as though they're magical and they're gonna solve all problems. They're not, it's math. It's really sophisticated math that gets tuned by humans and trained by a really big, large corpus of knowledge to be able to detect things faster. That's when we talk about machine learning. And it's layers, and there's no one level. When we look at the machine learning that goes on in Microsoft, there's machine learning that occurs at the endpoint itself, and then there are different layers and models of machine learning that go on in the cloud. So when I say look for solutions that can help with detection on machine learning, it's not go ask some vendor who's going to say, I've got magical machine learning, it'll solve everything, but really more talk to them about what kinds of models they're using, what their detection rates are, and how they're able to tune that to be able to find things like malicious activity faster. And that can include things like some behavior detection and some rules in addition to the models. All right, so easy attack methods. Yes, absolutely. The attackers are getting very sophisticated. It's because they're well-resourced. This is a huge, big business. The average breach now is up at $4 million. They're making a lot of money, so they're focusing on this. Nicole, I think, was talking about nation states working at nation state time. So some researchers on the dark web, they'll see that certain attack campaigns and attack criminal organizations will stop in August because they're like having a summer break. So it's definitely, they are getting more sophisticated because they're making money and they want to keep making money. But again, and we talked, some people already said this, right? They just want what's going to work. So we noticed in the data coming out of last year that they had, in some cases, changed what they were doing in terms of their low-hanging fruit. So phishing is a really, really classic attack, right? And going back to phishing and targeted spear phishing, user impersonation in order to get somebody to click. 90% of attacks are still coming in through the phishing vector. How many people here run some kind of attack simulation? Do you phish your own people? Yeah? Yeah, okay. I mean, this is a great way to start, because we're the first line of defense. It kind of makes me crazy when I hear people are our weakest link. I mean, we can be, but we can also be the first line of defense too. So, help train people. A lot of those insiders that are causing problems in your company, they're not malicious. It's Monday morning and they weren't thinking it through and so training can really help. When you do training on phishing, keep in mind that we as human beings learn really well when we've got a little bit of adrenaline. But if we have too much, we can forget, we get into that weird fight or flight. So, use some kind of a tool that helps to really raise that focus for the user, but then also take them to a place that they don't necessarily get chastised for it, but they get education on how to improve. And there's been great research at great universities that gamification is useful for humans to learn. So don't be afraid of some kind of a tool that makes it a little bit cutesy or fun or catch the fish. If it works and it helps educate your users, that's good, and gamification can help us learn. I've heard a lot of CISOs say, I don't know, I don't want to play a game with them. Hey, you know what? This is about teaching. It's very serious, but sometimes we learn better in games. So with phishing, definitely train your users, and doing attack sims on them is helpful. And as I said, I think it's best when they get sort of a positive outcome of it. The one thing you don't want is to make your users so scared that they stop actually clicking on any link at all. And a former company where I worked that used to do phishing attacks, there was a funny experience where it was a review of the company. They wanted to have employees check in and say we like this or we don't, and it came in and the link went to like SurveyMonkey or something, and I saw it and I was like, no way, delete. And then 10 minutes later there was an email from someone very high up at the company that said, we are terribly sorry, that was a legitimate email, we want you to click on it, because this is a really important program that we're doing at the company right now. So I thought, yeah, okay. I mean, we were so good at not clicking that I think I was not the only one that went, oh, that must be a fish, and deleted it. So you want to balance that, right? Because we want to train people to use the systems wisely. The other thing that can help with phishing, not get that link in there at all, right? Use some kind of mail hygiene solution that strips out malicious links. And fun fact, the attackers know that they're being checked when they're coming into your company. So guess what a lot of them are doing? When they send the fish out, what's on the other end of that, like you know where I'm going, you're like, oh yeah. When they send it, what's on the other end of that link is perfectly benign and there's nothing wrong on that website. And about 30 minutes later, yeah, then they put the malicious payload on there. And that's because if you check it only when it's coming in, you're going to miss. So you want a solution that's going to check as that comes in and also at the time of click, because they figured out that there's a little bit of latency and they've been sort of playing the float with that. Some other things that can help with phishing are things like cloud access security broker type solutions, so that you can manage where your users are going in the cloud and do some authentication before they get out to the different systems. So if you say these are approved sites for you to go to, then that could prevent going to a bad or a malicious site. So another one that was really interesting, low-hanging fruit, that I was actually kind of surprised and a little bit taken aback by, is the lack of encrypted data in rest and transit. So not quite in use. So the classic, where do you encrypt the data? At rest, in transit, and in use. Encryption in use is still something that we're in deployments of it, but it's not in broad deployment. The way that it's certainly not at the level of at rest and in transit. But a number of cloud storage solutions not encrypting their data when it's in transit, or not encrypting it when it's at rest. So that was a bit of it, especially when you're talking SaaS, right? Because if you're up at the SaaS level, you don't have a lot of control generally, unless they give you the buttons to click on what happens below. If it's IaaS, if it's infrastructure as a service in the cloud, then you've stood up your own systems. You can say, I want everything that's encrypted on the back end. But usually when it's a SaaS solution, it's up to the provider to do it for you, or to at least give you the option. So we were pretty surprised that it was at such a low rank level. And our recommendations there are definitely, first of all, talk to your provider. Anybody here use the Cloud Security Alliance, the CSA STAR registry, before you go with yeah, well, you do. You're a CISO. But it's okay. Here, recommended by CISOs. So anybody else use that or heard of that? So Cloud Security Alliance, there's something called the STAR registry, and the reason that it is used by CISOs is that it creates a normalized set of questions that cloud providers can attest to and say they are doing or not doing when you use their cloud service. So it's actually a really nice resource because you don't have to worry about apples to oranges. Again, thinking about the show floor out at RSA, and it could be like, everybody seems to do everything perfectly. What the registry does is it says apples to apples. Here, do you encrypt this? Do you give the option to encrypt this? So the STAR registry can be really helpful to look at what your cloud provider is giving you. So number one, talk to your cloud provider and get some feedback from them on what they're doing to protect your data. Because again, if this was a little bit disturbing that came out of the numbers because it is really important to make sure that your data is always encrypted in transit and encrypted wherever possible at rest, especially if you've got, as Nicole was talking about, the crown jewels up there. Oh, any questions about that before I move on?
I wondered if you could, the statistic below it, I wonder if you could expand upon the HTTP piece for the SAS storage. It says, only 4% of SAS storage apps.
Yeah, supported all the HTTP headers for the session protection. So yeah, there were only 4, so it was a very low level there in terms of the transit part. Yeah. So, and also keep in mind that transmit versus transmit, we also want to ask thank you for that question. We also want to make sure that our providers are using the best protection down at the bottom. So SSL. Right, we've all heard of that, right? So we all know SSL, we use this in the industry because it's an easy term, and well, it's not an easy term, but we all learned it. Right? But SSL is broken. It's busted in the crypto world. So no SSL. And TLS is transport layer security. That's what's taken on past SSL. Transport layer security version 1.3 just got approved, and it's got forward privacy in it. So that's where your vendor should be. Probably what they're using now is 1.2, but you want to make sure that when you talk to your vendor about what they're using for the transmission, that it's also the most robust recent version. Because anytime somebody says something like crypto's like milk, it's like it just starts to spoil after it's been out there for a while. So you want to make sure that they're on the latest version too. Okay, so the last thing that really came out that was interesting is ransomware. We heard a lot about WannaCry and not Petya last year, and they definitely went through a lot of different systems. They were distinct. WannaCry really was ransomware, or wcrypt, so it was truly ransomware and encrypted the data. It seems to have been spread very broadly. So it hit things like NHS, the health system in the UK. I believe there were actually patient on table. People were not able to go into surgery because some of the systems so it was very disrupted to the NHS in the UK and to other organizations. How about Petya? Was Petya ransomware? Or do you know why people say, you probably are people stuttering or whatever? Why is it that a lot of people go Petya, not Petya? Because we do, and we even have it in our slide here, Petya, not Petya. Why are people saying that? Because there was a big brouhaha in the research community, not brouhaha, but scientists want to be very specific, right? And they want to be distinct. And Petya is a form of ransomware. What really hit last year was this not Petya, it was actually destructionware. So it was similar to Petya, but it was not truly Petya. It was to destroy it was actually meant to destroy what was on the systems. It also appears to have been pretty targeted to the Ukraine. But we live in a world that's very interconnected, right? So did it stay there? No. And as we know, one big company that hit the news, it pretty much spread through that organization. They appear not to have been a target, but they were a partner, and it spread through that organization very, very quickly. Either way, whether it's ransomware or destructionware, do you, as the company who's got your core systems locked up and unusual, really care that deeply about what it is, or do you just want to get back to work, right? That's probably the most important. Or ideally, what do you really want? That it never hit your systems. So that's ideally too. Number one with both of these, with WannaCrypt and with not Petya, patching and being up on the latest versions. would really, in the WannaCrypt, if you were on the latest patch version, the patch had come out a month earlier before the attack, and anybody who was patched was not vulnerable to it. So being on the latest version helps a lot. Now, I used to be an admin. I used to run global networks. Guess what? It's not always easy to do. Be on the latest version. Now, I have to tell you, represent for that. Yes, please be on only supported operating systems and get on the latest patch version. That is the best thing that you can do. If you can't, if you have systems that you can't get on the latest version, that can't be patched for whatever reason, do everything you possibly can to put them in a secure enclave. Cordon them off from the rest of the network and monitor the heck out of them, because they are very at-risk systems. So ideally, get them upgraded. If you can't, monitor them and cordon them off. These are really important things to do, because if you don't, as we saw, it can move through a company, especially a really flat network, very, very, very easily, basically cut a swath through the system. So WannaCrypt, not Petya. Who's heard of Bad Rabbit? Bad Rabbit did not do a lot of damage. So the first instance of Bad Rabbit that was seen was 11/17 on October 24th last year in St. Petersburg on a Windows system. And it was only viewed as, it was Windows Defender at AV said it was an 81.6 probability that it was malicious. And that's too low to block the execution. So it got sent to the cloud looked at it, it got detonated. Once it was detonated, the activity of Bad Rabbit moved it from an 81% probability up to the magic number that it needed to get above 90%. That took about 14 minutes. So patient 0, did get it, right? 14 minutes. And then what? Then it was deemed unacceptable, so every user of Windows Defender AV that was using automatic update was immediately inoculated, 14 minutes. So Bad Rabbit did not spread as far. Now, can you get that hit rate every time? Man, we did even better with Dofoil crypto mining Trojan in March 2018. Crypto mining Trojan, what's really popular, the crypto mining. So Dofoil was actually encountered because it had a particular kind of behavior. It was blocked in milliseconds. There wasn't even a patient 0, milliseconds. 80,000 systems were protected in milliseconds. So that's obviously, these are good, this is hope. This is good. Can I promise you that it's always going to be like that? We're never going to see ransomware again? I'd love to. But at least with some of the advances that we're making, with some of the additional, the models, with learning in the cloud, we as an industry are getting better at being, because we want way more of those blocked in milliseconds than we do want to hear about patient on table at NHS not being okay, or having to wait for their surgery. So what can we do to prevent against ransomware, other than we want to be patched, right? We want to have the latest and greatest version of the operating system. We want to work with a company that's using some advanced detection. What else is really, really important, though? Backup. Please, please, please back up. Does anybody or know anybody that had a ransomware attack? Yeah, I did. So I do an important vendor, small business in my neighborhood where I live in New Hampshire got attacked. And they paid. And I asked them why they paid. I was like, why did you pay? They said, well, because we needed to get back to work. And it wasn't that much money. So the ransomware, they're getting good at, they figure out the amount of money that you can pay. They're getting good now at also, they go after, why do they go after law enforcement and healthcare and emergency systems? Yeah, what?
They have to get back to work.
So they're specifically targeting enterprises and organizations that when they start thinking about being not able to get their data for a couple of seconds, not be able to get to a system, it's a different calculus. They are thinking about, if you're a healthcare company, if you're a health system, is someone going to die if I don't do this. So it's a different level of calculation that they need to do. So they're also getting good at figuring out worming through the network, so that if you've got a backup that's connected all the time, getting in, encrypting that back. So you want this backup to be not available online. So you don't want it that they can get through it. So backup, really. Also, who here tests their backup? Who's here in charge of the backup? I used to be in charge of the backup when I was an admin. Okay. Do you test it? Because the worst feeling in the world is when you need that backup and you didn't test it. And I can't tell you how many times I was calling up the backup vendor that I had when I was, and saying, hey, my backup failed again. It was like once a month I had some really weird glitch in the backup. So if you are not testing your backups, especially for, as Nicole was saying, the crown jewels, please do that, because the number one thing you want is, if you do get ransomware or destructionware, if you get anything locked up, number one, we don't want it on your system at all, right? Let's keep it off as much. But if it gets by the defenses and your system gets locked up, that you can say, we're not paying because we can recover. And that's what having a really good backup can do for you. And I know they're not like the fun part of IT, but it's really, really important. So to give you an idea of some of the actual impact of Petya overall and how rapidly it went through. So duration, it was about 60 minutes. There's one very large company it was 17 minutes that it cut through. It went to all geographies, started out focusing on the Ukraine, but went to all geographies. 62,000 computers, 12,000 servers, and 50,000 workstations. And then these are some of the different losses that were reported by the organizations. Yeah, so it's not, I know we read in the news about, oh, it happened and it feels a little bit separate to us, but if you were one of the organizations with that, this was a very significant level of loss that they had. A trend that we do see is really this movement of the rapid cyber attack, and that it was shown by WannaCry and how quickly it moved, and by Petya, not Petya. It just cuts through organizations and moves as quickly as possible. And very often it's completely automated, so it can keep going from system to system, device to device, server to server as quickly as it can, and fairly disruptive. So there's a dwell time when you've got the attack that's that really true advanced persistent threat. That's when you get like one or two, or I just heard about a case where there were like it could have been 6 different groups inside of one company, and then ransomware got blown across the organization, and because of that, they discovered the other folks that were doing reconnaissance on their systems. But these rapid cyber attacks, they are very disruptive, unlike the advanced threat folks that are there building a case and doing reconnaissance on systems. And they are really very much about just getting what you can from the company. So like with mass phishing, if you get 2% to click on that mass phishing attack, that could be enough for you to make some sort of a profit. With this kind of ransomware, this is the thing that just really makes me so upset. They don't care what they take out. They're caring about what the money that they're getting back. So you could lose your if you're a small business owner, sure, you may go out of business. If they get 2% of the people paying and they're making some money back, then that's what they want. So these rapid and broad commodity type attacks. And really, for the recommendations, this is the summary of them. The destruction, I like this word here, destruction resistant backups is one of the most important things you can do. Make the backups, test them, keep them offline. This is really, it's weird. It's like bread and butter back from when I started almost 30 years ago, but still, it's just really very, very useful. Another thing that's important is getting some kind of segmentation in your network. Anybody here the network admin, the network architect? It's always so tempting to flatten out the network, right? Because it's easier. If you have segments, if you have enclaves in your network, that's going to be extra work. You have to work on the the routers and the switches and put rules, and you have to maintain them, right? But it really does help. At least harden up your systems and harden up your network so that you don't have to pass everything. SMB, do you need it going throughout the whole network? Ask yourself if you do or you don't. Make sure you get the critical updates as quickly as possible into all your systems. If you've got something that's old and can't be patched, do put it in its own segment. Or see, can you take it offline? I mean, that's one of the nice things about the cloud. The first time I went and stood up a couple of servers in the cloud, I was like kind of giddy because I didn't need the hardware. And I didn't, you can do this in the cloud now for fractional cost, and you don't need to worry about buying new hardware. So if it's at all possible, look at, can you retire those systems or isolate them at least. Have advanced protections for your browser, for your mail. Remember, they're smart. They're making the link malicious after it's gone through your hygiene check, so you want to check at click 2. And you want to also make sure that so that you get that blocking in the cloud. Oh, and this is a big one, is that how your administrators are getting to your systems, especially your domain servers and to all of your other important, the systems that have your most critical workloads, that have your most sensitive data. Consider now, one thing that companies are doing, which is really great, is they actually have privileged workstations so that it's just for admin work. And only that system can get and do the admin work. And maybe you have remote access to it, but it's got multi-factor authentication. But it just really locking down the administrative access to all of your systems with your own privileged access stations can help a lot. Because that means if somebody just grabs credentials, they're not necessarily going to be able to get onto your system. And do some striation or hierarchical control of those privileged accounts too. So if you've got, you don't need to have super user have access to everything. You can have an administrator for backup and an administrator to create roles too. We talked about validating the backups, the updates, and legacy protocols. So it's classic hardening of systems, but it's almost like we've kind of forgotten to do that. We used to have all this crazy stuff like charge-in, and people would go to that port, like suddenly they'd crash the system. But we don't have to harden our systems. A lot of it's sort of more automated, but we still may have legacy systems or legacy protocols in use. So take a look, take another, another gander at what you're doing with those systems and harden them down if they don't have to have all the ports open or all of the different services running. And actually, we have something in Azure which is just in time. So the remote admin ports are closed by default. And then you say, I want to go admin that system now. Then the port is open temporarily. So things like that can really help quite a bit. So thank you very much for your attention. You can get we have microsoft.com/SIR if you want to read the Security Intelligence Report. I'm very grateful for your time, and I think we have a few moments for questions.
So we'll open it up to any questions anyone might have for Diana.
I had a question back when you were talking about the Gamarue and the botnet and the bots and so forth that were affected. When botnet bots are, for example, on a desktop or a laptop rather than some other Internet of Things device being used for it, do they affect the actual processor itself, or is their activity transparent to the CPU?
Well, so that's a great question. And I mean, when you look at something that's very processor intensive, like this crypto mining, then that's probably going to take some of your CPU and be visible. But some of the activities, it really depends on the malware and what the bot's doing. I mean, some of the activity can be pretty hard to especially just as a user, you might not know that you've got the bot on there.
I have a question, Diana, that came in in the internet. This is from someone who's watching in Florida. Is a cyber attack response always part of a company's emergency response or business continuity plan? And if so, what do you recommend for exercising these plans?
Is it always part? It should be, but in reality, no, it's not always part. I mean, a lot of companies don't even have a cyber incident response plan yet. So yes, definitely make it part of business continuity. It may not, it doesn't have to be, it's not in business continuity as much as adjacent to and part of the whole resilience plan of the organization. How to test it? Couple key ways. One is the first, definitely do this, roundtables. Do roundtable exercises, because you don't need a lot of technology, you don't even need a lot of time to do this. Get everybody in a room. You'd be surprised, because people are like, well, if their hands aren't on the keyboard, it's not real. You'd be surprised what you can learn by just getting everybody to talk it through. So do that. If you have more resources, then actually do hunts and red team, blue team, and do some real live actual tests of attacks. Because it's really amazing what you learn when you're in the heat of the moment about what might not be right with your response plan, or what is right, if we're looking at the positive. Yeah.
For small business owners, they don't have the money to hire a company to take care of security or consultants, whatever. What would be your suggestion for them to use so they can implement some kind of security system themselves? So like you mentioned Windows Defender, or use some kind of, at least some kind of firewall, and Norton antivirus, whatever. What in your opinion, what would be your 3 top or 5 top things that you would suggest to them?
So especially for a small business owner, you don't need to become security experts, right? You want to focus on your business. I would get an expert to come in and set up the basic architecture. So what your cable modem rules look like, they're probably combined with a firewall, right? So you want to do, make sure that you've got what's on site set up as simply as possible. And then as much as you can, go with a cloud provider and get them to do, you can do a managed service, or you just, that have additional protections in the cloud, like the mail hygiene I was talking about. You can get that from a cloud provider. You get that from Office 365. But yeah, don't try and do it all yourself. Get an expert to help with the on-prem, but then anything you can have in the cloud that's going to give you that extra security, because the cloud vendors, that's what we're in business for, right, is to help to give you that level of security.
On the flip side, for customers that are like large Microsoft shops, what additional resources are there available from Microsoft to help harden their assets?
Yeah, so we actually have some great resources about CIS controls and helping you implement those. We also have free tools in Azure, like Compliance Manager, that you can run against your O365 and your Azure instance to get a report on where you are from an ISO standpoint, and from our favorite word today, or our favorite acronym today, GDPR, because that's a big one that people are looking at. So yeah, there are definitely tools that Microsoft has that we can help you to strengthen up with.
Hi, so I work for a payroll company, and we do risk assessment. So we have a lot of companies registering with us, trying to do service, and a lot of the time they're fraud. So we do a lot of internet searches, so like trying to look for their website to see if it really is legitimate.
Yeah.
Is there a browser that you recommend, or is incognito always the way to go when we're searching these type of things? Kind of just like from your professional standpoint.
So your concern is that you want to do that extra level of due diligence, but you don't know what the heck you're connecting to.
Yeah.
Incognito's one, but I would really strongly recommend that you either do it from a truly independent device, so you just basically have a system that you check those very potentially sketchy sites from, or if you've got virtualization. So hardware virtualization, and then browser, like Microsoft Edge has a browser virtualization within it, which will give you some separation, but I really, if you guys can, if you have some old laptop or an old, even an old phone or something, I would go from basically a burner system out there. But if you can't, then virtualization.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, let's thank Diana Kelley for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
So that's going to wrap up our presentation. Hopefully you took something from it. Cyber threats are going to continue to increase. We're going to be doing another community workshop in October on cybersecurity, another grant-funded program, a smaller version of this for community members. So we're going to continue to try, and what will happen is between now and October, there'll be a whole bunch of new cyber threats out there, because it's going to continue to evolve. As technology grows, vulnerabilities will increase and people will try to take advantage of that. So hopefully you got something today. We're thrilled to have done a program like this. Thank you for the folks that are watching on the internet. And everyone have a safe trip home and have a great weekend. Thank you very much, everyone.